Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Digital Banking Symposium, co-organized by the Singapore Fintech Association and Banking and Financial Services Union. I hope everyone managed to grab a quick lunch as we resume the second half of the agenda for the rest of the day. Next up, we have Ms. Tan Bin Ru, CEO Southeast Asia, OneConnect Financial Technology and Co-Chairperson, Blockchain Association Singapore, who will be presenting on the topic of enabling the new age digital bank with emerging technologies. Scalable technologies like blockchain and AI are emerging as the new backbone of our digital economy, capable of reinventing every industry and further transforming the economy. Before the coronavirus pandemic takes a toll on everything, Singapore and the regional nations were already looking at liberalizing the banking sector by injecting disruptions from challenger players and introducing new digital banking licenses. Digital adoption is set to pick up speed. Using case studies of successful implementations, find out what it takes to build new age digital banks with emerging technologies. And without further ado, I will now hand my time over to Ms. Tan Bin Ru.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you to SFA as well as BSFU for having me, and of course for Blockchain Association Singapore for sponsoring this segment. So my name is Bin Ru. I'm the CEO for OneConnect Financial Technology, responsible for Southeast Asia. And today, in this hour, I will share with you what OneConnect does, a little bit of our parent, Pinghan, and maybe some of our solutions for digital banks. And I think there is a Q&A after that. So this is a brief history of Pinghan. Many in Singapore may not know Pinghan as a company. We're the largest insurer in China. And because our traditional business, both in banking as well as in insurance, is only present in China, I think in China, people will know about Pinghan. Outside of China, lesser known. We're 32 years this year. So you can see that in the first decade between... And 1988 is our setup in Shenzhen. And back in 1998, which is 32 years ago, Shenzhen is a very small port village that's very underdeveloped. And in a short 32 years, if you visit Shenzhen today, it's one of the smartest cities in China. In the first decade, we only did insurance. So Pinghan started as the first insurer in China, but also the first insurer that gotten foreign investors in. At that time, it's not very common for a Chinese company to have foreign investors. And the second decade, we started our banking business. That was the decade that a lot of financial institutions tried to be an integrated end-to-end financial service, like Citibank, HSBC. That's when all the banking started to have a insurance arm. And then for us, it was the other way around. We started with insurance, and we then bought a couple of banks to form Pinghan Bank in the second decade. So that second decade, we built up our integrated end-to-end financial service. And in the third decade is where all the Alibaba, Tencent starts coming up in China. So the third decade, we started our transformation to transform into a technology company from a finance company. And that was also the decade that we started investing 1% of our revenue into technology every year. That comes out to be about 1.5 to $2 billion every year. Now we're 2 years into our fourth decade, and our fourth decade is all about exporting this technology and building ecosystems around it. And I can talk a little bit more in the further slides. So this slide shows just on a high level our growth trend for Pinghan. So you can see in terms of asset size, in terms of market cap, we're one of the largest. Our market cap is 1.3 trillion in renminbi, so it's about $190 billion. Revenue is about 172 billion US dollars. We're number 7 on the Forbes Global 2000. Then, of course, we are a top in terms of market cap among global insurance groups. This is a high-level chart on Pinghan as a group. Together, we have 32 subsidiaries. On the left-hand side are all the traditional business. So Pinghan has insurance, banking, asset management, quite a lot. Out of the 32 subsidiaries in China, 11 are tech companies. And the tech companies are all evolving around 5 ecosystems. And the financial services ecosystem, which is the closest to our heart, is driven by quite a couple other startups together with OneConnect taking the lead. And so for this particular presentation, I will share a bit of what OneConnect is doing for the digital banks, both in Singapore as well as for Southeast Asia. Before I jumped into OneConnect, I'll first maybe explain that we're the fintech arm of the Pinghan Group. Because Pinghan first invests in technology by automating itself. And having 32 companies is actually not that easy, putting the technology to invest in ourselves. But then after we completed the transformation, we realized that it is actually very hard. It's actually very hard to be able to replicate that for every other organization. And there is a demand in China for such AI solutions. So we then formed OneConnect as the fintech arm of Pinghan that commercializes the investment that we have put internally and the solutions that we have automated within Pinghan Bank. So initially it was quite contradictory, simply because it's like giving away our competitive edge, right? We're bank ourselves, gaining the trust of an ecosystem that possibly we're competing with is a bit controversial. And also sharing the technology that gave us a competitive edge is also controversial. So that concept started in China 5 years ago. In fact, OneConnect is entering into our 5-year anniversary very soon. Last year, we got listed in New York Stock Exchange. But the idea about creating a bank creating its own fintech 5 years ago wasn't that not as popular as today. Today, actually, you see quite a couple of cases. But maybe I'll touch on a few trends, especially from Singapore. So if most of you are on the audience that are Singaporeans, you will know that Singapore wants to be the regional HQ for Southeast Asia. And definitely for Chinese tech companies, this is one of the aims is to attract good Chinese tech companies to set up HQ in Singapore to service Southeast Asia. At that time, quite a couple of trends, right? So I just referenced a few articles, so you just for background setting, the time that we decided to set up OneConnect, we were also thinking about international expansion, definitely. And you see this article back in 2018. Right, Eric Smith at that time, and he's the first CEO of Google. At that time, he says by 2020, China would have caught up with the US with regards to AI, and he also predicted that by 2025, China will be better than the US in terms of AI. And then you also see at the below of the article saying that Pricewaterhouse PwC anticipated that for AI deployment, it will add 15.7 trillion to the global GDP by 2030, and China is going to take half of that, which compared to North America is 3.7 trillion. Right, so this is 2018. And then if you look at this article in 2019, it actually says China already overtook US in AI patent rankings. And for this particular one, it's actually one year ahead of time. If you look at the previous article, it says by 2025. But if you just focus on the AI-related patent, the country, China, has filed more than 30,000 patents for AI back in 2018. It jumped tenfold in 5 years and 2.5 times more than US. So by 2019, we knew that just in the category of AI patents, China already overtook the US. This is a little bit of old data. Apologies that I didn't refresh to the 2019 data, but this is specific to fintech patents. This is global fintech patent, and that maybe were not as known as Alibaba or even the Microsoft or the IBM or the Google. But Pinghan is top on the list in 2018 for global fintech. If I don't remember wrong, in 2019 we're also top few, but I don't remember whether we're first or second. And at that time we filed 1,205 patents back in 2018. The numbers that we have today, as at 2020, is 3 or 4 times more. But back in 2018, 1,000 patents just in the fintech area is amazing. And then you can see the comparison to the US companies as well. This one last data point I will share with regards to why it's so important to why China is the best candidate to bring AI solutions to Singapore and to Southeast Asia. And the reason is because, so I've worked in American MNCs all throughout. And for anything that's AI related, I think it matures really fast when you actually use it. And China is the highest has the highest level of adoption for AI solutions. So a lot of these solutions we have deployed within Pinghan as a start, and then outside of Pinghan we service 600 banks in China. And before, so the solution is very well deployed in China before we move it to Southeast Asia through Singapore. And you can see that one of the statistics here shows that China's citizens, or in general people, are showing a lot of faith for AI solutions and technology. They're very open to adopting technology, and because they are, and it's not a good or bad, it's just that they are very optimistic about using it, very open about using it. Whether is it good or bad, it is actually twice the global average. I think that by itself, plus the talents that China is churning out, which is, you can see as well, this is also, I think, 2018 data, that 4.7 million STEM graduates are all coming from China, which is at least twice the amount compared to India, and maybe 5-6 times more compared to the US. So let me move to OneConnect then. So OneConnect Singapore was set up 2.5 years ago. So OneConnect in China is 5 years old. 2.5 years ago, the model that we have adopted to commercialize our solutions that enable Pinghan Bank is proven to be successful. We serve 600 banks today. We cover almost 100% of city commercial banks. And then we cover 80 plus insurance companies, which is maybe about close to 45% market share, and more than 3,000 non-bank institutions. So 2.5 years ago, we chose Singapore as the regional HQ to expand into Southeast Asia, or expand internationally. We didn't cap Southeast Asia per se, so you will see that there are Europe, South Korea, etc. But we started with a lot of focus in Southeast Asia. So as at now, we service more than 50 clients, FI clients. We only service financial institutions, so we don't service outside of FI verticals. And then 15 across 15 countries. So there's Europe, there's UAE, there's Japan, a joint venture, South Korea. We started with our first customer in India, although India is relatively new. In Hong Kong, we have our own virtual bank, as well as OneConnect. And then in Southeast Asia, across the 6 countries, which is Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, these 6 countries, we have made extensive presence for now, out of which 4 of them we have full entities in the countries. Yeah, so this is a bit of where we are in the 2.5 years. This is our vision, and I wanted to explain the vision a little bit because I think there are a lot of fintechs out there. For us, it's a little bit different because number one, our parent company is a bank, and we have a lot of passion in technology, but at the same time, we also understand that to service banks, you need a lot of domain knowledge. And for fintech that is only passionate in tech, high chance will not be able to fully understand what a bank needs, its legacy constraints, its complexities, etc. So half of our people are actually bankers, and they came from Pinghan Bank. For OneConnect, they came from Pinghan Bank, and the other half are technologies, right, or consultants maybe. And our vision statement for Pinghan is technology makes finance easier. And then for OneConnect, there are 3 pillars that we look at between. So we focus, of course, the largest one you can see there is innovation and technology. That's the core of what we do. And then of course, domain knowledge and ecosystem build are the 2 very, very important components to make sure that the solution that you deploy is successful. Right, knowing the domain, I think knowing the industry, knowing the legacy constraints and what is needed, and really tapping on the ecosystem and partnerships to make the solution successful is what's needed in order to get that positive spin in our vision. Here's a little bit of our awards and certifications. So I'll leave the awards. You can see some of the fintech awards that we've gotten. I've chosen to put the ones that's a little bit more international so that the Singapore audience can recognize. So I didn't list down the China awards. And then on the right-hand side are our certifications in cybersecurity, ISO, cloud security, product software maturity level. So CMMI is robustness in software research, right? So I think for fintechs, especially given that we are one of the top Power 50 fintech, and then our parent is a bank, we literally followed as stringent criteria as we possibly can, given that we need to be certified to serve financial institutions. And just nice, it also lists down the patents. Earlier I shared maybe 1,000 patents. Today we have about 3,382 patents, out of which 945 are filed overseas. Yeah, we've started filing the Southeast Asia ones here in Singapore, and the original solution is filed in China. Any revised Indonesia specific, Thailand specific, or Singapore specific patents are all filed here. Okay, so I've come to maybe a summary. We have a lot of solutions that I wanted to leave time for Q&A. So I don't have all the solutions in there, but it's kind of summarized in this particular one page. Right. So for digital banks, if you ignore the InsurTech solutions, the first three pillars are all digital banking solutions. So the very first set is all the identity verification. So you can see that it has facial recognition, ID card authentication, OCR, voice print, as well as AI bots for call center. And all these biometrics are essential technology for customer acquisition. And most banks, digital banks, or maybe a traditional bank opening a digital arm, or perhaps a greenfield digital bank, customer acquisition is an important area, having a very good mobile app to start acquiring new customers. And then the second area is unsecured lending. So our smart lending platform from China, we're the largest lender in China for unsecured. We have a loan book of USD $50 billion in China. And we use 100% unsecured, as in there's no branches, there's no agents, leveraging the solution, 100% digital. Nobody comes to any branches anymore for any interview. So based on that system, we've then catered the same solution to Southeast Asia countries. Some of the anti-fraud, some of the credit risk modeling, the first version comes from China, and then subsequently fine-tuned to the country's requirements. So you can see anti-fraud, credit risk. Micro-expression is a video interview solution, whereby we do a video interview when you when the tenure is a bit longer or the quantum is a bit higher. You can set the scenarios of when you want to do a video interview, or you can do it for every single loan if you want to. And it captures a bit of the emotions, whether or not the interviewee is being anxious, or uncomfortable during certain questions, and you want to see certain red flags. And if this entire interview has a lot of red flags, you cannot conclude legally that the person is not honest, but at least you have a case to maybe ask further or wait for a different timing if this person is kind of tired or nervous about the interview. Yeah. And then bank statement, OCR, this is another one of our solutions, whereby a lot of banks check bank statements, and they do it manually, kind of via eyeball check. So we're able to then take a photograph of the bank statement, pull the data into backend, and be able to do a bit of the anti-fraud check automatically. Then that flags out much lesser work for the humans to do a bank statement check. And then lastly is core banking. So we have a cloud-based, smaller than traditional core banking. Is cloud-based, and it allows the Greenfield Bank to be able to have a microservice cloud-based core that scales up a bit faster. We have something called a dual core as well. And the dual core is for traditional banks that decides to set up a digital bank, leveraging on maybe one core system. So that completes the first three pillars, completes what we call digital banking in a box, because most greenfield banks starts from digital customer acquisition and lending. But if the strategy is different, then of course the box doesn't fit altogether. But it addresses probably about 80% of all the greenfield starting point. And it's important for a digital bank to know what to build or how much to build at the beginning, because profitability for digital banks are very important. With the COVID situation, you can also see that some of these European digital banks are facing issues because a pandemic wasn't anticipating a pandemic for sure, but unfortunately, the digital bank hasn't reached a sustainable, profitable stage when the pandemic came. So it's hard for some of these European banks who are still burning money to acquire customers. So I think for Southeast Asia, given that end of this year, Singapore would have our digital banking licenses, and then next year, Malaysia would have new licenses. I'm pretty sure the Southeast Asia digital banks will put a little bit more focus about being more sustainable in their growth. And then lastly, on our new solutions for next year are all the insurance solutions. Well, Pinghan is the largest insurer in China, so it's important that we bring in the insurance solutions. And so next year, we will have some of these agent management app, training app. For insurance company, I think most important is the productivity of their insurance agents. And with COVID, it wasn't possible to have face-to-face meeting all the time. So I think that puts a lot of pressure to make sure that the agent still is able to provide customized services, being able to cater to that same satisfaction level with a lot of technology. And also the way you measure the agent's productivity, given that you may not be able to have ever expanding agent force, is also important so that the technology can give you better insights to your agent's productivity. And then auto insurance, definitely. In Pinghan, we use an app to assess the damage of the vehicle. That helps to detect fraud in terms of damages that gets overclaimed or inflated by workshops. Like, so in China, you use an app and you take a video 360 degrees and it gives you a past assessment of how much this damage should cost. Okay, so that's the 4 pillars of solutions that we have for Southeast Asia for now. And then underlying are just the underlying technology that we brought over, and that include blockchain. I didn't talk about blockchain. I think I have a slide on it. Okay, so this is what I spoke about earlier: facial recognition, micro expression, and voice print. So these are the 3. There's some accuracy level, but for AI, I think it's important that it gets sufficient usage over time. So even like facial recognition, I mean, in China we have billions of usage for Chinese faces. So naturally, the accuracy for Chinese faces is high. And when we first started, say in Indonesia face, the accuracy would drop first, and then with usage it goes back up. Some faster than the others. For India, it was a little harder than, say, Indonesia or Vietnam. So it all depends on the different combinations. For certain combinations, like if you're wearing a headgear, it's a little bit more difficult. If you're having a mustache or you're maybe darker skin, is a little bit more difficult. So the accuracy varies a little. Micro expression and voice print, especially voice print, is quite universal. So I find that I think a lot of voice print technology can be used in call center. Okay, these are public data. In Southeast Asia, I just picked a few of public data that we have done for Southeast Asia. Maybe we'll go through kind of high level what are the projects that OneConnect has already implemented. In Philippines, we built the nation's first multi-lender lending platform for micro SME. This is done in conjunction with Union Bank with its fintech arm called UBX. The platform is already live, it's transacting and servicing a lot of SMEs today, but it's still relatively young, kind of gone live about a year or so. And then the second one is Cinemas. Cinemas is a multi-finance lending platform. Cinemas Group has 7 multi-finance, and they're all using our platform. This is a strategic collaboration with Cinemas. And then in Indonesia, we have a working relationship with KPIJ, which is the private credit bureau in Indonesia. We built a consumer's credit scorecard for Indonesian citizens, and this went live during the COVID timing. We also introduced what we call a COVID filter. It referenced the recovery process of China and try to reference it for Indonesia. It takes notes of what sector are harder hit compared to others or recovering faster compared to others in the credit scorecard for Indonesia. so that the banks can then put in this filter to determine or make sure that their default rate is within control, even with the COVID situation. And then Malaysia, this is with RHB. So with RHB, we did a omni-channel SME loan platform. I think it's only recently gone live, about 6 months ago. Yeah, so we're servicing 3 out of 5 top 10 banks in Malaysia. So RHB ones is the first ones to go live. And then back home in Singapore, we built a SME cross-border trade platform with IMDA. This one only recently went live, I think last month or something. So blockchain, and this is an example of blockchain. We built a Hong Kong trade finance platform for Hong Kong MA via blockchain. There are about 14 banks on the platform. Sorry, that it says here 7 banks. The first phase was 7 banks. Second phase we had all 14 banks on the platform. It was launched in 2018. And the key thing is to be able to detect double financing. So you can read there as well that some of the key features like electronic invoice, electronic PO, smart contract, and then the technology that is used here is the zero knowledge proof to prevent the double financing, so that when an invoice is being financed by Bank A, without reviewing the details of that financing to Bank B is given an alert when this invoice has been financed before. Yeah, without knowing who financed it, when it's financed, and the details. So because banks don't want to share information with each other, they just want to be told that this invoice has been financed already, so as to not do the double finance. Okay, so I sort of summarized OneConnect's solutions for the digital banks. I wanted to just touch on a few things on the importance of setting up the foundation of a fintech, both in the culture space, in the contribution to the community space as well. So that I think it's important for any fintech not to be short term. It has to be sustainable. So although there's a lot of revenue pressure, there's a lot of pressure for a startup, I think foundations are important. So you'll see that from day one, we invested in ISO standards from day one. Knowing that we are here to stay, and that with or without being listed, with or without revenue hitting target, it's not a business that we will give up on. In Pinghan, we have a culture that's based on the 安字, right? So a lot of things are based on the 安字, and if you are Chinese, 安 is a bit of harmony to a certain extent, or safety to a certain extent. And you can see that the 安字 actually is broken down into 2 parts, right? So the bottom part is a 女字, and then the top part is a 官字. And the 官字 means positions of power, and the 女字 is female, right? So gender diversity is a concept that's maybe very known in the Western world. In China, since our early days, it is actually not very known in China, the importance of gender diversity. But for Pinghan, we have, in the last 12 years, invested in becoming a technology company. And that's when, for a male-dominated banking industry or financial institution, to achieve that gender diversity, to be able to become a technology company. So you will see that at the board level, both in Pinghan as well as OneConnect, we strive to have at least 30%, 35% representation of female. And today we're roughly about that. In Singapore, I hope to achieve 50%, so we're still working hard on it. And then younger people, so the average age is probably about 30, 33 years old. In OneConnect, we have 76% millennials. And for OneConnect Singapore, we have something on top of what Pinghan don't have, which is the 13 nationalities that we hire. I think it's important for a big conglomerate in China to see the international culture through OneConnect Singapore, and therefore I made it a point that we should hire different nationalities. And then you see that lamb and the wolf below. Let me just explain that. Right, the 安字 has a additional meaning on harmony, and Peter Ma is our founder for Pinghan Group. when Pinghan Group first started, he viewed his job as really just finding harmony between his veterans. He called them lambs because they're guarding his bread and butter banking business and insurance business. And being in the traditional banking business, which is bulk of his profit and revenue, they need to be prudent. They need to look after these are customers' dollars and cents, right? And maybe banks or insurance are looking after customers' money, so definitely they're being a little bit more risk adverse, more adherence to governance, etc. So he calls them lambs, and rightfully they need to be good lambs. And for the technology area, we have 11 tech companies out of the 32 subsidiaries. He called them tech wolves, right? The technologies people are more passionate about tech. We want to try new things. We don't want so many rules, etc. So these are two very different ecosystems to get them to work together. And his job is to create harmony between these two groups. Yeah. So that's the explanation for the answer. And for OneConnect Singapore, on top of first setting up our culture, the follow-up thing we did is really investing a lot of research and innovation. Our HQ does a lot of research, but innovations, when you move from China to Singapore, you must do continuous research so that you are relevant to the country that you deploy to. So other than our own research lab in Singapore, we have also R&D innovations and collaborations with SMU, with SIM, with Poly Fintech, etc., and NUS. Lastly, I will touch on the Pinghan Academy, and that's working with these universities to train up new talents, right? So you can see that we have 76% millennials, and we're also getting in a lot of Gen Z, kind of fresh graduates, young people with new thoughts. And when we first started last year, actually the university degree has a bit of a gap, as in the first batch of blockchain or AI students will graduate, if it's not this year, probably next year. And so back in 2018, there's definitely a gap between having graduates from com science that already know blockchain or AI. And a lot of people are taking courses. SFA also have a course on fintech. So initially what we did is we gave this course free. It's a 3 weeks over 11 days course that's overall intro to fintech from China, the trends, some of the technologies that we use. And then there's a 4 days Python course, and then there's another 4 days of blockchain AI course. Yeah. So next comes a project. It's an academy that we run with SIM. The student does a project, and we took in quite a couple of fresh graduates, interns to begin with, many of them whom is still working with us today. So this is my ending slide. I understand from the organizer that there are a lot of individuals in this particular symposium. So I said, we're hiring, even though COVID timing, our projects are coming. I think there's a big ramp in digitization. And in the tech area, the government is encouraging a lot of skill sets and training to be ready for the tech industry. I listed down a few of the skill sets that we're looking for. Not everything is easy career change, I would say, but you can please feel free to check out our LinkedIn for the jobs that's posted. Okay, so that ends the sharing. Thank you very much. Let me. On the questions. Okay. Can't see the questions yet. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just looking at the questions on the chat box as it comes in. There's one question in there that says that oops, 1 second. cannot read the first one already. Just now, actually, it talks about BD roles, right? When switching career over to fintech, whether there are BD roles. Yes. Actually, if it's non-technical role, it is much easier to switch from a non-fintech to a fintech industry. And BD roles or marketing roles, or some of the product is maybe a little bit more tech. Yes, but the non-tech roles, finance roles, we have a lot that came in via that route. They understand our solutions better via a non-tech role, and that helps with the learnings for sure. Okay, this chatbot is not good because the moment you type in a question before I address it, I cannot see the questions anymore on the second question. Sorry that I jumped to the latest question because the second question I can't see anymore. In a branchless digital bank, how does the bank maintain customer loyalty? A very good question. Via multiple ways, your digital engagement is super important. So you don't want to attract the customer to want to go to a branch down with you. Right. First thing, I think it's important that the experience on your mobile app is frictionless, and it addresses all the needs. Then, of course, you want to keep your customers having an option in the event that they want to see someone, right? So just like, for example, our call centers in China, no matter how much automation you put in, there'll be still people who doesn't want to talk to a bot. They will still want to call you. So there needs to be an offline integrated channel for those customers to reach out to you. And I think if you have a good online experience and you have ability to go offline for certain audience, you want to cap that to a certain percentage, definitely for productivity, but that option is a must-have. The future digital experience is really not a full online only, but a combination of on and offline. Right? And I think that keeps your customer loyalty. But if you ask me, customer loyalty is a diminishing value in the future. Customers wants real-time value in what they get and what they do. So it's important to make sure that you are always bringing value to your customers. If it's only from an aspect of loyalty, high chance that's not going to, the future generation is not going to be like this generation. Yeah, and the future generation goes after what's convenient and of making sense, not so much of loyalty. Oh dear, you see, this thing shows me the latest question only. I keep missing other questions. Cannot see the other questions. What's your view? Sorry if I skip questions because it keeps overlapping, so I cannot see. What's your view on bankers that have wealth management experience? I have not taken any wealth management solutions yet, but I think private banking has a lot of room for solutions to come in. I don't have a lot of insights in that area since I didn't take the investment banking solutions at this point in time, but I think wealth management for sure is something that's profitable. Most of the digital banks in Singapore understand that it's not a first audience they would target, but ultimately they will need to service the wealthy in order to be profitable. Servicing the unbanked population, the long tail, is a strategy that most regulator wants. It gives you new customers, but they're not necessarily the most profitable or the easiest audience to penetrate. Okay, next question. Oh dear, sorry, I haven't read your question, but the next question came in and overwrite it, so my apologies. It says, do you foresee digital currency backed by central banks actualizing within the next? Yes, I think so. In China, I think the central bank digital currency is making good progress. And just like a lot of this tokenization, blockchain, cryptocurrency has been there for a while, and due to security issues or due to possibility of or risk issue or being abuse issues is hard to grow. And I think that the digital bank currency gives a good balance. It's regulated. At the same time, it also can make payment a whole lot easier. For sure, there is it's almost in every country. I think it was in the recent news that Cambodia launched its digital currency or the digital wallet recently. So I'm definitely think there's a lot of potential. OneConnect don't do anything in the crypto area, so it's not my expert. I run the Blockchain Association. I think there are a lot of enthusiasm in this area. Okay. What is the growth plan for OneConnect in the next 5 years? I think international growth for us is important, right? So it's important for a Chinese solution to want to be international. I think is Chinese companies are finding a lot of success within China, and for success international is less of a use case to a certain extent, because it's a unique way to do business in China, and it's a unique scale and unique size of a country that you can find synergy. So Southeast Asia is a totally different region, right? It's 13 diverse, different little countries. The strategy needs to be different. The solutions needs to be different. Pricing needs to be different, etc. So I think for OneConnect, we're definitely finding that we're adding value to OneConnect being more international. And we're listed in New York Stock Exchange. We're here to stay. The next 5 years, I would expect that we will high chance be focusing on top of the digital banks, be servicing the insurance industry. I know that wealth management was asked earlier. At this moment, no plans yet to move into private banking area, but then in China we're doing that. So I think that's also a possibility. Next 5 years for us to venture out of Southeast Asia broadly into UAE and India, that's high chance going to be the plan as well. Okay, it says, will Robo Advisory be viable business in fintech private bank? I think so, but I've not seen really a Robo Advisory bot that is smart enough. Even chatbot. I mean, Robo, I would think for private banking is a complicated chatbot to build, right? The many chatbots that everybody have in their website today are just not utilized because it's not smart enough. And a lot of technologies that's new makes the chatbot a little bit smarter. But I would say it's very hard to meet everybody's expectations by being able to ask the bot everything and the bot can answer. So I don't think the solution is there yet. The machine learning in place allows the bot to be able to get smarter over usage. Our human nature, after you ask one question that cannot be answered, high chance will give up asking the bot. So it's still a journey, I think. If I'm a mid-career switcher to a tech role, would a fresh graduate be more desirable? I think the few difference to consider, I think number one is what role and what price, right? So a mid-career switch indeed is tricky because you wouldn't want to go back to a fresh graduate pricing. At the same time, you will need to pick up new skills. So my advice will be don't go for a total switch. If you are really learning a fresh new role to the extent that you are the same speed, same level of contribution like a fresh graduate, then be prepared that the company will benchmark between paying a mid-career person and a fresh graduate because it's just too different. So I would advise the mid-career to go that where your experience plays a certain part. It may be a new industry, it may be a part of it that the tech area may be a little bit new, but then there are experiences from your past that you can fit in, right? Like marketing, going to digital marketing. Some of even our finance folks are finding that working in a fintech company are different from, say, working from a traditional finance in a banking or in a telco. It is different from working in a fintech finance, given that we have to set up a lot of process from scratch, including the finance process. A lot of times when we work for MNC, we take processes for granted. And for a startup, you will need to build that from scratch. That allows a lot of room for innovation and also allows someone to be able to be motivated setting up the process rather than follow a structured process. I think sales is the easiest one. If you have tons of sales experience, doing sales in the tech area just requires a whole lot more reading. When I first started in HP doing sales, selling PC, you don't need to be tech to sell PC. You read up for 2 days, go to a HP demo day, sell at some Harvey Norman, and you can start selling PC. But in these days, you got to understand a whole lot more tech. So you might need to take some courses in the nighttime. You might need to do some reading up so that you can explain some of the underlying technology better to your customers. But it's not undoable. But I've also seen cases whereby an engineer trying to be a data scientist is too big a switch, in my opinion, especially if you're mid-career. Even if you were to take time off to go for a data science degree, it's a very different area. Yeah, and the risk is very high. I mean, not that everybody wants at mid-career switch to maybe jump to something that's most desirable, but I think assessing how big a step that you are making changes, like in all job switch, I will go for 70% of the job that I'm familiar with, 30% are new things that I want to learn. Okay. What is OneConnect most important strategic initiatives in the next 24 months? For Singapore, next 24 months, I want to break even. So I think it's important for fintech to be profitable and sustainable. And not, I want to be able to deliver what we sold to the customer. So I think it's important that we are also a bit selective about our customers. So some customers' requirements we just cannot meet. And if I go for, if I am revenue hungry and I go for these opportunities, I won't be able to fulfill what we promised the customer. So I think going for the long term, being able to deliver what you promised the customer is important. So I'd rather be a little bit more selective about the customer who appreciates and has the right investment, right workforce, right commitment behind the new tech. Because a lot of times a new solution is not going to miraculously transform the bank when you plug in a new solution. Is 30% new solution, is another 30% kind of board sponsorship on people's mindset to adopt the new solution, and perhaps another 30% on the right timing to push the change, adoption level, etc. So I think there's and also the right marketing, in my opinion, for if it has to do with any branding change. So I think that's important to get all components in. The first thing I will ask the customer is that in the event that it's a new system, and are we training new people? Are you putting sufficient money on training? Are you committed to send them for training? Are you committed to also ensure adoption? So if you are transiting something from the old system, you have to have a retirement plan from the old system. Otherwise, you build a white elephant that nobody uses. Can't see, yeah? Is it? Okay, Ken. Sorry that some of the questions we cannot see, so I would presume I either answered everything. If I haven't yet, you can reach out to the organizer, and then maybe we can see what we can do to offline answer your questions. So thank you everybody for your questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tan, for sharing your insights with us on emerging technologies and how we are poised for digital adoption to pick up speed. Up next on our agenda, we will be discussing the topic of cyber risk to digital banking, likely attack scenarios and defensive insights. This topic will be presented by Steve Ledzian, Vice President and Chief Technology Officer, APAC FireEye. In his role as Vice President and Chief Technology Officer for Asia Pacific, Steve Ledzian advises organizations across the region on approaches to implementing modern, mature security postures. He has spent half of his 25-year career in IT focus on cybersecurity in Asia. The next session will be starting shortly at 3 p.m. So do click on the next session button once again, located at the bottom of this screen, and I will see you there.